you actually believe that we really don't go to church? Would you believe that if somebody were to get onto me for having my hat on in the church, that might not exactly be what Christ had in mind when he talked about the church, and we'll talk about that just in a second.
Welcome to our Sunday morning service. We're so glad you picked us to listen to. Like and share our video so that we can sing and worship with your friends. Here we go.
For this day, you gathered in your name, calling out to you. Your glory like a fire, awakening desire will burn our hearts with truth. You're the reason we're here, and you're the reason we're singing. Open up the heavens, 'cause we wanna see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our prayer. Oh, your presence in this place, your glory on our face. We're looking to the sky, descending like a cloud. You're standing with us now, Lord, unveil our eyes. You're the reason we're here, yes you are. You're the reason we're singing. Open up the heavens, 'cause we wanna see you. Open up the floodgates, the mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our prayer. We're singing, open up the heavens, we wanna see you. Open up the floodgates, the mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our prayer. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Oh, we wanna see your glory. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Hey, we wanna see you. We wanna see you. Open up the heavens. We wanna see you. Open up the floodgates, no mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our prayer. We're singing, open up the heavens, we wanna see you. Open up the floodgates, no mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our prayer. Oh, we say,
When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, well, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. 'cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Shame no longer has a place to hide. I am not a captive to those lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Oh, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. There's power that can break off every chain. There's power that can empty out a grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. There's power that can break off every chain. Oh, there's power that can empty our grave. There's resurrection power that can save. There's power in your name. Power in your name. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Yeah, my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. And my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Oh, I'm standing all around. I'm standing in your love. Very good. Before we do this last song, I just wanted to encourage you and share this verse of scripture. This song is entitled "Come to Me," which has grown to be one of my favorites. And I bought a Message Bible a while back, and I love the way this passage reads. But it's the passage, "Come to me, all you who are weary." But it reads like this in Matthew. It says, "Are you tired and worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." You know, things are tough these days. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, but we can rest and have peace, knowing that Jesus is still in control and that we still have a Father that we can go to. Vanessa sings this song. What does this song mean to you when you sing it and you minister to people through this song?
I love that. I mean, first off, it's the Lord singing to us. That's the way that they wrote this song. You just read in the scriptures, he says, come to me and I'll teach you what real rest is. And come to me and I'm going to show you. I'm going to teach you, that my yoke is easy. And what I put on you is going to fit you just right. But how many times do we actually do that?
Yeah.
And so how many times do we have to be reminded, come to me,
Yes.
come to me, and I'll give you rest. And it's in those moments I find that I get the most clarity and I do come to rest. But it's very typical of me also to just run on past him and try to get into something that probably wasn't fit for me. It could have been for somebody else, but, I'm running full force ahead. So we need to be reminded, constantly reminded, to come to him, to go to him.
I love the song just because I think it embraces kind of the nature of Christ. And, when I hear the song, I can just picture Jesus saying these words to me. So the song, it can be very powerful if you really focus on what it's saying.
I
It's
agree.
called Come to Me.
I am the Lord your God. I go before you now. I stand beside you, and I am all around. And though you feel I'm far, I am closer than your breath, and I am with you more than you know. So steady now your heart and mind. Come into my rest, and don't let your faith arise. Lift up your weary head, 'cause I am with you wherever you go. So come to me, I am all you need. Come to me, I'm everything. You sing, come to me, I am all you need. Yes, you are. You sing, come to me, I'm your everything. I am your anchor in the wind and the waves, and I am your steadfast, so don't be afraid. When your heart and flesh fail you, I'm your faithful strength, and I am with you wherever you go. And you sing, come to me, 'cause I am all you need. Oh, you sing, come to me, I'm your everything. Come to me, I am all you need. Thank you, God. You sing, come to me, I am your everything. Don't look to the right or to the left. Keep your not be shaken, you will not be moved, no. 'Cause you see, I'm the hand to hold, I'm the truth, I'm the way, yeah, yeah. And you sing, come to me, 'cause I am all that you need.
So if you were here last week, joined us, and if you hadn't, go back on demand and see what we talked about last week. But there's a lot of confusion out there about church. I've said it for years. I even talked about it from my home on Facebook during the pandemic, and I devoted an entire talk to it online. And so I want to kind of go back, not to be redundant, but there's still a lot of folks who are confused about church. And trust me, I've been confused about church before in my life too. So I don't want to be intentionally contentious here, but I do want to talk a little bit about how we define the church, because how we define the church is how we are going to survive during this pandemic. So last week we talked about some things that Jesus said about church, and I just want to use this kind of as the springboard, and then I'll go on to what I got to say today. But remember, here's what Jesus said about the church. He says, look, you're Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and all the powers of hell will not conquer it. That's what he said. And so as you go back and listen to last week's, if you didn't, or if you were there, everyone and on site, those that were here, those that have been online have said, yeah, we believe that we are the church. We are the church, that we need to separate the idea of being the church that Jesus would build. And that means every Christian, everybody, every person that's ever chosen to follow Jesus. That's different from the gathering. That's different from on site. The church is different because it's not a building. The church is us. Jesus said, listen, quit whining, quit complaining, make application. There is no pandemic, no chaos that is big enough to stop the church. But still, I have some concerns. And last week we talked about just some observations that Jesus and some early followers had to say about us, the church. And so this week and probably next, I need to just be kind of honest, brutally honest, have kind of a heart-to-heart, and talk a little bit about my concerns regarding some of the confusion that is still kind of lingering in regards to the whole idea of church. And so if you're ready for this, I just want to talk a little bit today about two things. If you really believe that we are the church, it has nothing to do with the building. If you believe that what Jesus said about the church, especially the part about the gates of hell will not conquer it, that includes Corona, that includes shutdowns, that includes everything. If we believe that, if I believe that, then I've got to come to the conclusion. Two things. Number one is I got to take it outside. If I'm going to be the church, if I believe that Jesus was who he said he was, and that I'm going to follow Jesus, and I'm going to believe what Jesus said, I need to take it outside. So that means we're going to M28 at home, right? That means first and foremost that Jesus said, you need to go and make disciples. And then you need to baptize those disciples, and you need to teach those disciples. But yet here we are where our world is just turned upside down, right? Some churches have even had to reclose. And what we say is, oh my goodness, the government shut those churches down. No, they didn't. We are the church, so we got to take it outside. We have to take what Jesus said we are to be and we are to do outside. So I would say to you this, and it's interesting. Here's what Carey Nieuwhof said. Think about this. He said, spiritual formation will shift from facility-based to home-based. So that means parents, how are you teaching your kids You're supposed to be teaching your kids anyhow. It's not just that 1 hour, that precious 1 hour that we all gather together, that teaching is supposed to have done. But this has pushed us to a new frontier, to a new level of ministry outside the building. If we believe that Jesus said what he said, and we believe that we are the church and nothing can stop us, including a shutdown or including sicknesses, then we got to believe that we got to take it outside, and that starts at your home. It's at work. It's anywhere. Guys, come on now. You know, it's one of our lay pastors, Paul Boulding, has always said, you know, we are supposed to be hunters, especially us men. We're supposed to be hunters. We're supposed to be looking for opportunities, paying attention with our mind, our eyes, our heart to those folks that are out there that are hurting. If you believe that you are the church and it's not really a building, that the people are the church and the building is a building, number one, you're going to take it outside. Number two, you're going to have to serve others in your community. To many, the extent of their Christian experience is that hour on Sunday mornings when they find a building somewhere. And I hope that's not you. But it's time to ask ourselves, who is hurting? Who is hurting financially? Be generous. That was a trademark, so to speak, of the early church that Jesus was talking to right there, was generosity. Who's hurting financially? Be hunters. Who's hurting emotionally? There are so many folks right now that are going through so much turmoil. Babies that are being born that grandparents can't go see. There are people that are in hospice that loved ones can't check on. There are people in nursing homes that loved ones cannot check on. People are hurting. Why are we not being the church? And I hope you are. I hope you've come to the point where you say, look, I've got 7 days full of opportunity to help people that are hurting in some way. And it may be to you just give them $100, you give them $20, you go sit with them, you reach out to them, you just are present in their life. You don't have to be a Bible counselor. It's just being present in so many of those folks. I know here at Crossbrand, we're trying to figure out the future, right? And so one of the things that we're doing is looking at our finances, and God is blessed. You've been generous. And of course, we could always, all of us can do better. But one of the things we wanted to do is we as a church, the mission team, is looking into other organizations in our area, some smaller churches that have been hard hit during these times. We want to take it outside. We want to serve our community. We want to be the church. I think one of the biggest misses in this context right now is the realization that this pandemic has created an opportunity for some pretty deep questions that really Christians should be talking about. There's lots of folks that have tuned in. I've read data. You know, it's hard to pinpoint how many agnostics, how many atheists, how many searchers, seekers have sought out answers. I do know that YouVersion, the Bible app, has increased their downloads because people need answers. Listen, church, you got the answer. It's Jesus. In the chaos, He is the answer. Why aren't we taking it outside? A lot of people are confused about church. Well, they shut us down. No, they didn't. So that brings me to some concerns that I have, right? So let me talk about those. I have 2 or 3 that I want to share with you, and I've not been reading your mail or listening to your conversations, your private conversations. So some of this might get a little tense, but I just want to say a few things. My team and I We talk about these every Tuesday in our meetings here at Crossbrand. And I hope you'll, if you got questions, you'll reach out to us in this context. Send us a private message, send us an email, talk to us about this if you have questions. But here are my concerns. Even when people say, yeah, we are the church. The church ain't the building, we are the church. Here's my concerns. Number one, I think the pandemic, just a thought, I think the pandemic has defined the difference between going to church and being the church Jesus talked about. We don't attend church, we attend a gathering. We don't go to church, we are the church. And I say it all the time. I said it this morning. I told Mike I was going to the church. No, I was going to my office at Crossbrand. There's a difference. And you say, that's no big deal. I know what you mean. I hope we know what we mean in practice and not just verbalizing that. My concern dealing with the pandemic and the difference between going to church and being the church is the fact that sometimes the only spiritual experience that people are having may be limited to that 1 hour on Sunday. And the danger in this is that if the experience only happens for 1 hour, the whole Jesus experience, singing, worshiping, praying, teaching, fellowshipping, if that is the extent of your experience, you're going to be struggling during the pandemic. This pandemic has not only defined the difference between going to church and being the church, but it's really been an exit point. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get through this today, but it's really been an exit point for many. I need you to hear me out on this, because if you don't hear me out on this, you're going to feel so judged and so criticized. There are conflicting statistics. I've read all the data. I've done my research, but there's conflicting statistics on how many people are leaving the church during the pandemic. Some say 35%, some say 50%, and yet you're saying, well, there's a difference between attending and being the church. Of course I am. The scary thing is I predict, based on biblical data and experience, that we're going to have a bunch of folks leave the faith. Now, here's what I'm getting at, and I know this is going to cause some theological tension, right? Those of you who believe once saved, always saved, if saved, always saved, whether you're Arminian or Calvinist, let's don't go down that road. Let me show you. Let me say this. There's going to be, according to Scripture, many people who identify as Christian walk away from that identity. Many people. Matter of fact, Jesus talks about pruning in John 15, and he talks about, uses an agricultural analogy, and they understood that. And Jesus would say, I'm the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. Remain in me, as I also am in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. And neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. And go back and read that. It's a little bit tedious. But Jesus just said, look, makes sense. You can't be a limb, a vine, and not connected to the trunk. You can't be productive, continue on, unless you're a part of a stable relationship with Jesus Christ. Matthew 7:21 talked about it. Lots of people are going to leave that have even been volunteers in churches, have been in leadership in church. And I get it. A lot of people are saying, well, When things slow down, we're going to come back to church. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying right now, because the 11 o'clock hour or the 9 o'clock service wasn't available, because that was the only Jesus experience, Jesus connect in your life, because you thought that was church and that stopped, you've found drift, or you've walked away, or beginning to walk away. And so listen, I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just simply saying, maybe it's time for you to do what Paul said, examine yourself. See if you really have made a commitment to Jesus. Hey, I was baptized so many times I could do a half gainer off the side of the baptistry in that little church I grew up in. I finally came to faith at 19 years old, my decision to follow Jesus. I think we're going to see a great exit. That concerns me. I think we have a great opportunity to define the difference between church and a gathering, attending. I hope today, if we can help you, if we can pray for you, if we can help you make a decision about Jesus, you'll reach out to us. God bless you.